Very good. Looks like everything's working here. Um, I've had to make a new video because I can't find the one from class 4 years ago, and it's probably on my external hard drive. So anyway, but I'll make one now for a quiz that you'll take over the next week. That's over the first two films you watched. I meant to put this up last week, but well, I was down with the flu. Anyway, this comes from your reading, the short stories and the other material. And now Bishop is one of your main texts, and what his review when he writes about Seabrook's The Magic Island, he indicates, as do others, that the actual Seabrook's book, The Magic Island, had a very profound effect on the movie The White Zombie, as really the first zombie movie. Um, and it contains, as I said, some pretty cardboard acting, but some very nice videos, effects. And in the White Zombie, the Bela Lugosi, he's always doing this stuff and things like that, plays the plantation owner, Murder Legendra, who is basically, when it's these racist elements of the film, he's usurped the Booker's role, and now he's taking over from all the incompetent locals who mulattoes and others who try to run the country. I mean, this is a sort of a justification in many ways for the American involvement, I think from 1917 to 1935. At any rate, the zombie does grow out of the voodoo or voodoo practiced in Haiti. Now, it came to the Caribbean islands from Africa and sort of melded with Christianity, so it's a sort of syncretic religion. And some of the Christian elements are adapted to, of course, shade or cover or somehow shield uh, from the actual zombie practices. But it is an official religion in the area. Now, one of the other interesting things about White Zombie, and there are many, is that the Halpern brothers, in fact, invested, I think, approximately $50,000 in the White Zombie, and it grossed over $8 million. So it was a big, big money winner. And kind of whet the appetite for further zombie movies, most of which weren't very good until the arrival of I Walked with a Zombie, the Val Lewton production, highly praised film. Now, in your book, and I've Xeroxed this material for you, The Zombie Holocaust, David Flint, and rightly so, argues that I Walked with a Zombie. And he argues that it's very much a critic's film and that fails to deliver the visceral goods, which would be what you'd want in a traditional horror film. But Val Lewton and his director, and from Catwoman and others, always played right on the boundaries. That's why of horror, and he loves to manipulate the conventions, and with his adept use, among other things, of shadows. Uh, but yeah, I Walked with a Zombie is a much more sympathetic, offers a much more sympathetic view of zombies and of the Haitian natives than, of course, White Zombie. Now, again, yes, the U.S. occupation was from 15, I think. I said 17. It was 15 to 1934. And a lot of resentment built up of the use of almost slave labor of the locals, who kind of felt like they were the living dead, I suppose, many times. Now, the Magic Island, illustrated in books, that in Haiti, and this Bishop brings out a lot, is that one doesn't fear uh, getting killed by a zombie, because you see that the zombies are very well. They can kill. There's no question about that. That they're just somnolent, what I would call walking subalterns. They don't threaten anybody, and they're used a lot of time for labor. And that's for the movie we watch, of the Night of the Living Dead, and therefore you see that Romero, among other things, turns a lot of traditions on over the top, if you will, because in the United States zombie films, one fears getting killed by a zombie. In the main, is that for a lot of reasons in Haiti, the idea would be that it's a sort of a anti-religion, especially the Christian religion, that you would go on living after death, and thus the kind of an idea you fear becoming a zombie. It's for a lot of people would mean I put in a hard labor all my life, and now somebody's turned me into a zombie and making me work for a corporation, as in the Magic Island, where it's the I'm trying to remember the name of the place where the Polteis shows the author the zombies walking. And they're going to work for Hasco, the Haitian American cane company. Okay, let me see. Now, what happened? One of the things that happened about the horror decline during the 50s is that the 50s, the horror movie declined while a science fiction with zombie-like characters, such as those depicted in The Invasion of the Body Snatcher, prevailed. And that's true. There were some not bad zombie movies. It's not till 68 really that we have the breakout of the zombie movie, but there were a lot of the invader kind of movies, and they were sort of metaphors for the Cold War, a lot of them. I'll probably show Invasion of the Body Snatchers before next week, before we watch the regular movie. One thing too is that you know, unlike familiar figures of horror such as Dracula, Golem, and Frankenstein's and Wolfman, the zombie comes to the United States with really not much of a literary tradition. It grows out of folklore, and it's sort of deracinated by Romero. This ripped its roots out, and it doesn't really have that many connections, obvious connections, with the figure of the zombie in Haiti. Uh, but there are these literary kind of things that go on. Val Lewton, when he makes I Walked with a Zombie, uses the novel of Jane Eyre, and it even says that in the beginning of the movie, as a kind of writing of another version of Jane Eyre with Rochester's crazy wife in the attic. And here we have the plantation owner's own wife, who's maybe been turned into a zombie. But that novel is Jane Eyre, and there were other people who wrote about the zombies. Zora Neale Hurston, a famous American ethnographer and writer, a black woman, very independent, caught a lot of stirs. She wrote a book called Tell My Horse, and that she said there that I knew there were zombies in Haiti. I mean, and so we have the other people like Wade Davis and the Serpent and the Rainbow claiming to then have zombie dust, and he argues that Bokers create zombies through the use of careful administration of a power neurotoxin such as tetrodotoxin. And but nobody ever met really the zombies that Zora Neale or Seward talked about, and Wade Davis is, while he gives a really good in The Serpent and the Rainbow anyway, a sympathetic look at voodoo in Haiti, the experiments with the famous zombie dust has not really had any good strong results. So. And it doesn't matter in the long run for our studies of the zombie, although, there is the idea, again, of the zombie representing a figure of rebellion and repression. And we'll see some movies where that starts to come out more in the Hollywood and international zombie films. Oh, in The there is, like I say, is Jessica a zombie? Well, the Bokors and those of the other place certainly think she is. You know, they look like they put a knife through Jessica and everything. Mrs. Holland, the mother of the brothers, and is a nurse. Well, she's kind of a nurse, but she works with the Bokor to try to, get them to take a Western music, medicine and whatnot. Maybe a sort of a racist element in there, but she thinks that she's responsible for turning Jessica uh, into a zombie because Jessica was going to leave her husband and run off with the ne'er-do-well brother who's just jealous because he's not in charge. Um, and again, yeah, that's happened in the. And unlike White Zombie, excuse me, unlike White Zombie, the I Walked with a Zombie is lessens the racist sentiments and actually features black actors as opposed to white actors in blackface and whatnot. So it's an improvement, if you will. Now, bishops, as we've read and talked, the bishop and others you read argue that when you look at Haitian voodoo, you want to take into uh, the history or politics of the country. Very important for the growth of the zombie figure itself is connected with um, Haiti's fights against colonialism and colonial rule of France, and then, of course, the long American occupation. And so it features into how the zombie is portrayed, and it's how people view, not just view it, but the political connections of neo-colonialism and that what helped create the Haitian zombie. Now, one thing too I liked about the I Walked with a Zombie, but I Walked with a Zombie more so, of course, than White Zombie, plays on the guilt of that occurs over slavery. You have the statue of Saint Sebastian in the Holland Garden, and it finds reflection in the island's name and came from the mast of a slave ship that brought its human cargo to the Holland plantation. And so it's nice that there's this sort of stain, this guilt that covers or informs the family. Now you had some nice short stories, two of them, one Lazarus, and I like that one. When Lazarus meets up with Jesus and says, "Why did you do this to me?" He says, "I wanted to make your sisters happy." He doesn't. Lazarus is not thankful. He's just dipping into more and more trouble, especially with the Jewish priests. And at the end of Lazarus, they keep asking. The one priest in particular keeps asking, "What's the secret of death? What did you see?" And then he's executed for being, among other things, an abomination. And he won't answer the questions, so the priests feel he is a kind of a usurper. And I love at the end, he just says, and then he remembers what had happened. One of the other stories that you read the first week is What Maisie Knew. And in that one, boy, that's a brutal one. The zombies are called reanimates. And it's not the traditional zombie movie of what you see in Romero, but the zombie, because it doesn't have this strong literary basis, as a lot of critics have said, you can do pretty much anything you want with a zombie. And here, there's no plague, it's just that you can take dead people and reanimate them. And Maisie's one of them, but she remembers. And it's not just there's three companies, and then there's underground kind of black market places where our hero goes. Not much of a hero, but it's not just upper class. Everybody can basically own one of these. You have to be careful if you don't buy it from this more acceptable, but middle class people can own these people too. And they reanimates have to wear a green and white uniform and a green and white mask. That's part of the deal. Now, our character, the narrator, um, sexually abuses. And that's one of the other things that's of interest in here is that when you give them the zombies pain, they kind of remember who they are, and she knows him because he killed her in a hit and run accident. And in the end, I guess he get the comeuppance. She's hacked to pieces, but um, he kills himself and forgets that he has sold his soul, if you will, and is forced to become reanimate himself. So there's a sort of poetic justice in there, but it's about power and corruption, and also a commodification, even of death, in there for abuses of the people in that club who kill one of the zombies and cut him to pieces, and they scream. It's pretty horrible. Cooper is an interesting anti-war narrative. It's a kind of a kind of an apocalypse, where the apocalyptic world is slowly eating, it would seem, at the regular world, and all the zombies that you meet are all served in the U.S. military and in war, pretty much all of them. And they gather together, and then Cooper will be, or Copper, will be the one old man. He'll become a zombie when he dies, and he will lead them because he's an older man and he's had enough service. But the gangs, I like it. There are these zombie gangs are the people, like-minded zombies, Worlds of Hurt, amputees, all them. And I like it is that they dine on those who come to loot houses. And so in the end, they enter in Copper's basement and they get tea. Uh, Now, I like. I mean, it's not nice. The our main narrator, the eye zombie who thinks and talks. I mean, they kind of slow down as they grow along, and they smell more and things along those lines. But you see that he suffers from post-traumatic stress, and he can't get to a veterans hospital, which actually happens in a big way. After the story, we have a huge scandal of how long it takes to get in to a doctor in the VA hospital, say in Denver. But he dies from a drug overdose in the basement of the Baker House, uh, not far from the uh, the house of the old man, um, bitter old man, I suggest. The other one was Dust, um, and in here there's been a viral breakout, and our characters, Jamie, who goes a little crazy. And is shot by the army because he put a zombie body in the river. Remember, they were held inside this encampment and helped the military dispose of the bodies and whatnot, but there's a new outbreak, so they too are in confinement, and Jamie tries to escape, and so he's shot. And the Fiona is we know from is Toby's wife, and he searches throughout the narrative to find her alive or dead or a zombie. Um, and interestingly enough, like the story does take place in a small village in South Wales in Great Britain. And so it's sort of out of the way, a little confined place. And you'll find, like, of course, a lot of the zombie movies have people who try to survive and whatnot, and they're in confined places like this. We find this in The Walking Dead when they spend a lot of time at that one prison. And so it's like this in Dust. It's a similar thing. Is that the their place that protected them becomes a place of entrapment, but that entrapment is what saves them because suddenly all the bad people are on the outside. And so Toby and Bindi realize that their entrapment actually had become the only freedom left. So they are I would say, safe there. And at the conclusion of In the Dust, Bindi discovers Fiona, um, and she had become a zombie, and so perhaps Bindi and Toby um, will bond at a new level. We don't know. Well, anyway, do a good job. I'll leave this open until next Tuesday. You must get to the discussion threads. Remember, there's 2 for each week. Do the reading. It's a very interesting reading. Um, and we have a couple more short stories this week. We have Night of the Living Dead, and you have your reading assignment. So give it all a look, and I'll be in touch.